You are listening to Beyond the Perimeter, building secure zero trust architecture. Like and subscribe to keep up to date on our latest audiobooks. Beyond the Perimeter, building secure zero trust architecture. Chapter 1, The End of the Castle-and-Moat. Why Zero Trust? For decades, the bedrock of cybersecurity strategy was a simple, intuitive concept: the castle and moat. Just like a medieval fortress, organizations built strong, impenetrable walls around their digital kingdom. Firewalls served as the thick stone battlements, network intrusion detection systems were the archers on the parapets, and virtual private networks, or VPNs, were the drawbridges, carefully controlled to allow trusted individuals inside. Once past these defenses inside the moat, everything and everyone was implicitly trusted. You were in, you belonged, and you had free reign. This castle-and-moat model worked, to a degree, in a world where business operations were largely confined to physical offices. Applications ran on servers within the company's own data centers, and internet connections were a minor convenience, not the lifeblood of commerce. The digital perimeter was clear, defined, and defensible, but that world is gone. Today, your data no longer resides solely within your corporate walls. It's in cloud data centers across the globe, in software as a service, SaaS, applications accessed via web browsers, and on countless endpoints from laptops and mobile phones to smart devices in factories and utility grids. Your workforce is no longer confined to cubicles. Remote work, hybrid models, and contractors collaborating from coffee shops, home offices, and airports are the norm. Each individual endpoint becomes a potential entry point, miles away from your traditional firewall. Your business partners and supply chain are deeply integrated into your systems, exchanging data, accessing platforms, and blurring the lines of inside and outside. The digital perimeter, once a solid line, has dissolved into a porous, ever-expanding cloud of interconnected resources. The castle gates are no longer single points of entry, but myriad access points scattered across an invisible landscape. In this new reality, the old security axiom, trust but verify, has become an unacceptable risk. Consider the infamous Target data breach of 2013. Attackers didn't break through the front door of Target's highly fortified network. Instead, they compromised the credentials of a third-party HVAC contractor who had legitimate, albeit limited, access to Target's internal network for billing purposes. Once inside, the implicit trust model of the castle-and-moat security philosophy suddenly became a liability. The attackers were able to move laterally, hopping from system to system, escalating privileges, and ultimately reaching Target's point-of-sale systems, where they stole over 40 million credit card numbers. The moat was breached, and the castle offered little resistance to an intruder already presumed trusted within its walls. This incident, and countless others like it, highlighted a critical flaw. The castle-and-moat model assumes that once an attacker is inside, they are free to roam. It fails to account for the increasing sophistication of modern cyber threats, which include advanced persistent threats, APTES, highly organized, often state-sponsored groups that gain access to a network and remain undetected for extended periods, continuously exfiltrating data or preparing for large-scale disruption. Their persistence makes perimeter defenses eventually irrelevant. Ransomware, malicious software that encrypts data and demands payment for its release. Ransomware often exploits lateral movement within a network to infect as many systems as possible. Supply chain attacks. Attackers compromise a trusted software vendor or service provider, then leverage that access to infect their customers via legitimate software updates or integrated services. The SolarWinds incident is a prime example of how trust in a vendor can become a critical vulnerability. Insider threats, whether malicious, a disgruntled employee, or negligent, an employee falling for a phishing scam, insiders already possess some level of legitimate access, making traditional perimeter defenses ineffective against them. In this hostile digital landscape, security professionals have had to confront a sobering truth. A breach is not a matter of if, but when. The question then becomes, how do you secure your organization when the perimeter is gone and the threat actors are already inside, or will be soon? This is where zero trust emerges, not as a product you can simply buy and install, but as a fundamental shift in cybersecurity philosophy. At its heart, Zero Trust champions a single, radical mantra: never trust, always verify. This means that no user, no device, no application, and no data flow is inherently trustworthy, regardless of whether it's inside or outside the traditional network perimeter. Every single access request must be explicitly authenticated and authorized. Every connection is treated as though it originates from an untrusted network. Trust is never granted for life. It is continuously evaluated based on a multitude of contextual factors like user identity, device health, location, and the sensitivity of the data being accessed. Imagine, again, our medieval castle. Instead of one large wall, imagine that every room, every cupboard, every single document within the castle has its own individual reinforced door, requiring its own specific key and often a separate security check for anyone, even the king, before entry. And to make things even more secure, each person's key only works for the specific rooms they absolutely need to perform their duties, and only for the limited time required. This is the essence of Zero Trust. Granular control, explicit verification, and least privilege access applied to every digital resource. The benefits of embracing this new paradigm are profound. Reduced attack surface. By eliminating implicit trust, Zero Trust minimizes the number of vulnerable points in your system, making it far harder for attackers to gain a foothold. Improved breach containment. If an attacker does manage to compromise a single user or device, the granular controls and constant verification inherent in Zero Trust architecture severely limit their ability to move laterally and cause widespread damage. The breach is contained, not spread. Enhanced regulatory compliance. Many regulatory frameworks, like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, demand strict controls over data access and privacy. Zero Trust provides a robust framework for demonstrating least privilege, auditability, and data isolation, making compliance much easier to achieve and prove. Support for hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Zero Trust is inherently designed for distributed environments. It provides a consistent security policy across on-premises systems, multiple cloud providers, and remote users, unifying security management. Better visibility and control. With every access request explicitly verified and logged, Zero Trust architectures provide unparalleled insight into who is accessing what, from where, and on what device. This enhanced visibility is crucial for rapid threat detection and response. Despite these clear advantages, Zero Trust often faces initial skepticism. Some believe it's too complex or expensive only for large enterprises. Others worry it will degrade the user experience or is simply a new term for existing technologies. It's important to clarify, Zero Trust is not a single product you can purchase off the shelf, nor is it about making life unnecessarily difficult for your employees. In fact, when implemented correctly, it can actually enhance user experience through seamless access to approved resources while dramatically increasing security. It's an ongoing strategic journey, not a one-time project. It's about designing security in, not bolting it on. The digital world has moved beyond the castle-and-moat. To thrive in this new landscape, organizations must shed outdated notions of implicit trust and embrace a model where explicit verification and continuous monitoring are the pillars of security. The time for Zero Trust is not coming, it is already here. In the following chapters, we will delve deeper into the core principles of Zero Trust and explore how to build a robust, secure architecture that protects your most valuable assets, wherever they may reside. Chapter 2, Deciphering Zero Trust, Core Principles and Philosophy. In the previous chapter, we explored why the traditional castle-and-moat security model is inadequate for today's distributed, cloud-centric world. We introduced Zero Trust as the inevitable evolution of cybersecurity, a strategy built on the foundational idea of never trust, always verify. Now, it's time to delve deeper into what that philosophy truly means and the core principles that underpin a Zero Trust architecture. Zero Trust is far more than a buzzword or a product. It represents a fundamental shift in how we approach security, moving away from implicit trust based on network location to explicit, continuous verification of every access request. This means treating every user, every device, and every application as untrusted by default, regardless of whether they are seemingly inside or outside your network. The Zero Trust Mantra. Never trust, always verify. This mantra is the beating heart of Zero Trust. It dictates that no entity, whether it's a human user, a service account, a laptop, a server, or a mobile application, is inherently trustworthy. Access is never granted automatically based on network location or prior interactions. Instead, trust must be continuously earned and reevaluated for every single access request. Think of it this way. In a traditional banking system, once you authenticate at the front door, the perimeter, you might have implicit access to various services inside. In a zero-trust bank, you're re-verified for each specific transaction. To deposit a check, you authenticate. To withdraw cash, you authenticate again, perhaps with an additional factor. To access your safe deposit box, yet another layer of verification is required. Trust is granular, dynamic, and never assumed. To translate this philosophy into a workable security strategy, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, in its special publication 800-207, outlines several core tenets that guide the design and implementation of zero-trust architectures. While specific frameworks may vary, these principles form the common ground for all zero-trust initiatives. Core principles of zero-trust architecture. Verify explicitly. This is the cornerstone. All access requests must be explicitly authenticated and authorized based on all available data points, not just who you are or where you are. This includes user identity. Is it really you? What's your role? Device identity and posture. What device are you using? Is it managed? Is it patched? Does it have malicious software? Resource sensitivity. What resource are you trying to access? How sensitive is the data it contains? Environmental attributes. Where are you accessing from geographic location? What time is it? Is this normal behavior for you? Threat intelligence. Are there known threats associated with this user, device, or network? Every access decision is dynamic, context-aware, and continuously evaluated, even during an ongoing session. Least privilege access. Grant only the absolute minimum access an entity needs to perform a specific task, and only for the shortest possible duration. This is often referred to as just-in-time, JIT, and just-enough access, JEA. If a user only needs to view a specific document, they should not have access to the entire folder. If an administrator needs elevated privileges to perform a maintenance task, those privileges should be granted only for the duration of that task and automatically revoked afterwards. The goal is to severely limit an attacker's ability to move laterally or escalate privileges if they compromise an account. Assume breach. This is a crucial mindset shift. Instead of assuming your defenses will always prevent an attack, you design your security strategy with the assumption that your network and systems will eventually be compromised. This means building in layered defenses, robust detection capabilities, and rapid response mechanisms inside your network. The focus shifts from solely preventing entry to equally emphasizing containment, detection, and minimizing damage once an attacker has gained a foothold. Every segment of your network must be prepared to defend itself. Microsegmentation. While we'll dive deeper into this in a later chapter, microsegmentation is a key technical enabler for zero trust. It involves breaking down a large, flat network into many small, isolated segments, sometimes down to individual workloads or applications. Each segment has its own granular security policies, vastly limiting the blast radius of a breach. If one segment is compromised, the attacker is confined to that tiny area, preventing them from spreading laterally across the rest of the network. Data-centric security. The ultimate goal of most cyberattacks is to access or disrupt data. Zero Trust shifts the focus of protection directly to the data itself, regardless of its location, on-premises, in the cloud, on a mobile device. This means classifying data based on its sensitivity, encrypting it both at rest and in transit, and applying granular access controls directly to the data, alongside robust data loss prevention (DLP) measures. The data inherently carries its security requirements, independent of the network it resides on. Automation and orchestration. Given the dynamic nature and sheer volume of access requests in a zero-trust environment, manual policy enforcement is impossible. Zero Trust relies heavily on automation and orchestration to enforce policies consistently and at scale. Security tools must be integrated to share context, automate responses, like isolating a compromised device, and adapt access policies in real time based on changing risk factors. This not only improves efficiency, but also reduces human error and speeds up threat response. Analytics and visibility. If you're continuously verifying and assuming breach, you need pervasive visibility into every interaction. Zero-trust architectures generate vast amounts of telemetry, logs, traffic data, user behavior that are continuously monitored and analyzed. Tools like security information and event management, SIEM, Systems and User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA, are essential for detecting anomalies, identifying potential threats, and providing the real-time context needed by the policy decision point to grant or deny access explicitly. This constant stream of intelligence helps to refine policies and improve the overall security posture. The bouncer at the exclusive club, an analogy. Imagine an exclusive, private club operating on zero-trust principles. When you arrive at the door, the bouncer, representing your policy enforcement point, doesn't just check if you have a membership card, user identity. They also verify your photo ID. Is it really you? Scan your card. Is it active? Has it been reported stolen? Check the guest list. Are you authorized for tonight's event? Observe your demeanor. Have you been causing trouble elsewhere? Behavioral analytics. Look at your attire. Does your clothing meet the dress code, device posture? Note the time. Are you trying to enter outside of permitted hours? Even once you're inside, your trust is continuously evaluated. If you try to go into the VIP section, attend a private event, or access the manager's office, the bouncer, or perhaps another, more specialized guard, will re-verify your specific authorizations for that particular resource. You only have access to the areas you explicitly need, and your behavior is continuously monitored. If you suddenly start acting erratically, your access privileges, even to the main lounge, can be revoked, and you might be escorted out. This dynamic, continuous, and explicit verification is what Zero Trust embodies. Zero Trust versus traditional security, a philosophical chasm. Let's be clear about how these principles fundamentally diverge from the legacy, castle-and-moat, model. In the traditional model, the core principle was implicit trust once inside the perimeter. For Zero Trust, it is never trust, always verify. Traditional security focused on protecting the network edge. Zero Trust focus is on protecting users, devices, applications, and data, wherever they reside. Access in traditional setups was broad once authenticated inside. In Zero Trust, it is characterized by least privilege, granular, and context-aware decisions for every atomic request. Traditional security assumed the network was secure if the perimeter held. Zero Trust assumes breach. The threat model for traditional security was primarily external. Zero Trust treats external and internal threats with equal suspicion. Monitoring in the old model was often reactive and perimeter-focused. Zero Trust employs continuous, real-time monitoring across all interactions. Crucially, lateral movement, the ability of an attacker to spread undetected, was often easy once the perimeter was breached in traditional networks. In a Zero Trust environment, lateral movement is highly restricted and made incredibly difficult through microsegmentation and continuous verification. The Zero Trust approach fundamentally changes the rules of engagement with cyber threats. It empowers organizations to secure their dynamic environments by rejecting outdated assumptions and embracing a proactive, data-driven security posture. It's about building resilience and minimizing the impact of inevitable breaches. In the next chapter, we will explore the tangible components, the architectural pillars, that translate this powerful philosophy into a real-world operational security framework. Chapter 3. The Pillars of Zero Trust Architecture. In the previous chapter, we established the fundamental philosophy of Zero Trust. Never trust, always verify. We explored core principles like explicit verification, least privilege, and assuming breach. But how do these abstract principles translate into a tangible, working security model for an organization? The answer lies in understanding the interconnected components, often referred to as the pillars, that form a robust zero-trust architecture. Think of a modern building. It's not just a collection of walls and a roof. It has a complex infrastructure: the electrical system, plumbing, heating and air conditioning, fire suppression, and security systems. Each system is distinct but interconnected, working together to make the building functional and safe. Similarly, a zero-trust architecture is a holistic system built upon several integral pillars, each contributing to the overall security posture. At the heart of any zero-trust architecture are two critical components that act as the decision-making engine and the enforcement mechanism: the policy decision point, PDP. This is the brain. The PDP is responsible for making the allow or deny access decision. It gathers all available context: user identity, device posture, resource attributes, environmental factors, and threat intelligence, and evaluates it against predefined security policies. Based on this computation, it determines whether access should be granted, denied, or if further verification, like an additional multi-factor authentication prompt, is required. The Policy Enforcement Point, PEP. This is the muscle. The PEP is the gateway or control point that enforces the access decision made by the PDP. It sits between the requesting entity, user device, and the resource it wants to access. Examples of PEPs include network firewalls, API gateways, identity proxies, and application-specific access controls. If the PDP says deny, the PEP blocks the access. If it says allow, the PEP facilitates the connection. These two components act in concert, continuously working to ensure that every access request aligns with the zero-trust principles. Now, let's explore the key architectural pillars that provide the data and control points for the PDP and PEP to operate effectively. 1. Identity, the human and non-human foundation. In a zero-trust world, identity is no longer just about who you are, but the sum of your attributes. It's truly the new security perimeter, because every access request starts with an identity. Users. This includes human employees, contractors, and partners. Zero Trust requires robust identity management systems that cover user provisioning, deprovisioning, and continuous authentication. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, essential for verifying user identity, moving beyond just passwords. This often involves something you know, password, something you have, phone, security key, or something you are, biometrics. Adaptive MFA uses context to determine when stronger authentication is needed. Single sign-on, SSO. While enhancing user experience, SSO also centralizes identity management, making it easier to apply consistent policies across multiple applications. Identity governance and administration, IGA. This ensures that user access privileges are regularly reviewed, certified, and aligned with their job roles, enforcing the principle of least privilege. Privileged access management, PAM. Dedicated solutions to secure and manage highly sensitive administrative accounts, often granting just-in-time access for specific tasks rather than persistent root privileges. Non-human identities. This increasingly vital category includes service accounts, APIs, machine identities, and code repositories. These identities also need robust authentication, authorization, and monitoring, as they can be prime targets for attackers. Machine-to-machine communication must also adhere to never trust, always verify principles. 2 devices, securing the endpoints. Every device accessing your resources, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, IoT devices, servers, represents a potential entry point for attackers. In a zero-trust model, the health and posture of a device are critical factors in access decisions. Unified Endpoint Management, UEM/Mobile Device Management, MDM. These tools ensure devices are configured securely, encrypted, and adhere to organizational policies. Endpoint Protection Platforms, EPP/Endpoint Detection and Response, EDR. These technologies detect, prevent, and respond to threats on endpoints. EDR solutions provide rich telemetry about device behavior, which is fed to the policy decision point to assess real-time risk. Device posture assessment. Before access is granted, the PDP evaluates a device's security state, e.g., is the operating system patched, is its antivirus up-to-date, is it encrypted, is it jailbroken. Any noncompliance can trigger remediation steps or block access. Network Access Control, NAC. While having roots in older network models, NAC can be adapted in ZT to ensure only compliant devices are even allowed to connect to specific network segments. 3. Network and workload. Granular control and segmentation. This pillar moves beyond the traditional perimeter and implements fine-grained network controls, crucial for delivering on the assume breach principle. Microsegmentation. The practice of breaking down network perimeters into small, isolated segments, limiting lateral movement. Instead of allowing broad access within a trusted internal network, communication between even internal systems requires explicit authorization. This can be achieved through host-based firewalls, hypervisor-level controls, or cloud-native network policies. Software-defined networking, SDN, enables programmatic control of network infrastructure, making it easier to implement and manage dynamic microsegments and policies across hybrid environments. Zero Trust Network Access, ZTNA, replaces traditional VPNs by providing secure, application-specific access based on identity and device posture without granting broad network access. Instead of connecting to a network, users connect directly to specific applications. Hybrid and multi-cloud considerations. Zero Trust provides a consistent security model that can span across on-premises data centers, private clouds, and multiple public cloud providers, ensuring seamless and secure access regardless of where the workload runs. 4. Applications, securing the software layer. Applications are the interfaces through which users interact with data and services. Each application, whether SaaS, on-premises, or cloud-native, becomes a resource that requires explicit authorization. Application-level authentication and authorization. Beyond network access, applications themselves must verify user identity and enforce granular access rights, e.g., this user can read but not write to this specific record. API security. Application programming interfaces, APIs, are increasingly used for communication between services. Comprehensive API security measures, including authentication, authorization, rate limiting, and continuous monitoring, are vital to prevent misuse and data breaches. Workload security, containers and serverless. For cloud-native applications built with containers, like Docker or Kubernetes, or serverless functions, Zero Trust applies by ensuring strong identity for these small, ephemeral workloads and strictly controlling their interactions. DevSecOps integration, integrating security practices into the entire software development lifecycle. Shifting left, ensures that applications are built securely from the ground up, reducing vulnerabilities that could be exploited. 5. Data, the ultimate target. Data is often the crown jewel organizations seek to protect, and Zero Trust ensures data is secure regardless of its location or the network it traverses. Data classification and labeling. Identifying and classifying data based on its sensitivity, e.g., public, internal, confidential, highly restricted, is fundamental. This classification informs access policies and protection mechanisms. Encryption everywhere. Encrypting data at rest, storage, in-transit network communication, and increasingly even in use memory processing ensures its confidentiality and integrity. Data loss prevention, DLP. Solutions that monitor, detect, and block sensitive data from leaving the organization's control, e.g., preventing sensitive documents from being emailed outside the company or uploaded to unapproved cloud storage. Granular access controls on data. Specific access policies are applied directly to data based on user identity, device posture, and data classification. For example, only a highly restricted set of users on managed, compliant devices might be allowed to download sensitive customer data. 6. Automation and orchestration, the engine of efficiency. Managing complex Zero Trust policies across identities, devices, networks, applications, and data manually would be impossible. Automation is critical for scale, speed, and consistency. Policy enforcement automation. Automated systems ensure that security rules are consistently applied across all control points without human intervention. Security orchestration, automation, and response. SOAR. Platforms that automate responses to security incidents, such as isolating a compromised device, revoking access for a risky user, or patching vulnerabilities, all based on predefined playbooks triggered by security events. Continuous integration, continuous deployment. CI/CD, security. Automating security checks and policy application within the software development pipeline ensures that secure configurations are deployed consistently. 7. Analytics and visibility, the eyes and ears. Zero Trust requires continuous monitoring and deep insights into every interaction within the environment to inform real-time policy decisions and detect anomalies. Security information and event management, SIEM, aggregates and correlates security logs and events from across the entire IT environment, providing a centralized view of security posture and informing real-time alerts. User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA, focuses on detecting anomalies in user and entity behavior, e.g., a user logging in from an unusual location or accessing resources they typically don't that may indicate a compromise. This insight directly feeds into the PDP's decision-making process. Threat intelligence integration. Incorporating external threat feeds provides context on known malicious IPS, attack patterns, and vulnerabilities, enabling proactive policy adjustments. Continuous monitoring. Unlike periodic audits, Zero Trust demands constant assessment of security posture and access decisions, allowing for dynamic policy adjustments based on evolving risk. These 7 pillars are interdependent. Like the systems of a building, they must be designed, implemented, and managed in a coordinated fashion. Successfully building a Zero Trust architecture involves weaving these components together, leveraging the policy decision point to analyze data from each pillar and the policy enforcement points to apply the specific access rules. It is a complex undertaking, but one that provides the necessary security foundation for the dynamic, interconnected digital world we inhabit today. In the following chapters, we will delve into each of these pillars in more detail, exploring their specific technologies and best practices for implementation. Chapter 4, Identity, the new security perimeter. In the traditional castle-and-moat security model, the network perimeter was considered the primary defense line. Once inside, you were largely trusted. But as we've discussed, that perimeter has dissolved. Our digital assets now reside across a distributed landscape of cloud services, remote offices, and mobile devices. In this new world, a new security perimeter has emerged, one that isn't physical or network-based: identity. In a zero-trust architecture, identity is not just a username and password. It's the comprehensive set of attributes that defines who or what is attempting to access a resource. It encompasses not only human users, but also non-human entities like applications, services, and devices. Because every action taken in a digital environment is initiated by an identity. Securing and verifying these identities becomes the absolute cornerstone of a zero-trust strategy. If an attacker can compromise an identity, they can bypass many layers of defense. Therefore, identity becomes the primary control plane for authorizing access to resources. The primacy of identity in zero trust. Imagine you are attending a top-secret conference. Your badge, identity, is scanned not just at the main entrance, but at every door, every meeting room, and every restricted area. Each scan verifies your attendance, your clearance level, the time of day, and ensures you're only accessing specifically authorized locations. This granular, continuous verification of identity is central to zero trust. It's no longer about whether you're on the network. It's about who you are and what you're authorized to do, regardless of your location. To build a robust, identity-centric zero-trust foundation, organizations must implement a comprehensive identity management system, IDMS, often leveraging modern cloud-based identity providers, IDPS, like Azure Active Directory, Okta, or Ping Identity. These systems provide the centralized control and intelligence necessary to manage identities and inform policy decisions. Key components of identity-centric zero trust. Robust multi-factor authentication, MFA. Passwords alone are notoriously weak and are frequently compromised through phishing, credential stuffing, or breaches. MFA, sometimes called two-factor authentication, 2FA, adds one or more additional verification factors beyond just a username and password. These factors generally fall into three categories. Something you know, a password, PIN, or passphrase. Something you have, a physical token, a mobile phone, receiving a push notification or SMS code, or a hardware security key like a UBI-key. Something you are, biometrics, such as a fingerprint, facial scan, or voice recognition. In a zero-trust context, MFA isn't just a gate, it's a continuous checkpoint. Adaptive MFA is particularly powerful. It uses context to determine the strength of authentication required. For example, if a user logs in from a trusted, managed device within their usual geographic location during business hours, a simple push notification might suffice. However, if the same user attempts to log in from an unknown device, an unusual country, or at an atypical time, the system might demand stronger authentication, like a hardware security key, or even temporarily block access and notify security. This dynamic application of MFA aligns perfectly with the verify explicitly principle. Single sign-on, SSO. SSO allows users to authenticate once with a single set of credentials and gain access to multiple applications and services without re-entering their login information. While often seen as a user convenience feature, SSO is a critical enabler for zero trust. By centralizing authentication through a trusted IdP, organizations can apply consistent security policies across all connected applications, centralize logging and auditing of authentication events, simplify user provisioning and deprovisioning, quickly revoking all access when an employee leaves, reduce password fatigue, which often leads to poor password hygiene. Identity governance and administration, IGA. IGA is about managing the complete life cycle of an identity and its associated access rights. This includes user provisioning, deprovisioning, automating the creation, modification, and deletion of user accounts, and their initial access rights across various systems as employees join, change roles, or leave the organization. Access, reviews, and certification. Periodically reviewing who has access to what, ensuring that privileges align with current job roles and that no unnecessary access persists. This helps enforce the least privilege principle and prevents privilege creep over time. Role-based access control, RBAC/attribute-based access control, ABAC. Defining access based on roles within the organization, e.g., HR manager, or specific attributes, e.g., user is in sales department and located in EMEA. ABAC offers even finer-grained control by evaluating a broader set of user, environmental, and resource attributes in real time. Privileged access management, PAM. Privileged accounts, e.g., administrator accounts, root accounts, service accounts, are the keys to the kingdom. Compromise of these accounts can lead to total system takeover. PAM solutions are specifically designed to secure, monitor, and manage these highly sensitive identities. Key PAM capabilities include credential vaulting, storing privileged credentials securely and rotating them frequently. Just-in-time, JIT, access, granting elevated privileges only for the specific task and duration required, then automatically revoking them. Session monitoring, recording and auditing all activities performed using privileged accounts. Privileged task automation, automating privileged tasks to reduce human interaction with sensitive credentials. Non-human identities. The digital ecosystem is increasingly populated by non-human identities. Service accounts, API keys, application identities, machine identities, for servers, containers, and IoT devices. Each of these also needs to be treated as a distinct identity in a zero-trust model. Machine identity management, ensuring that servers, containers, and virtual machines have verifiable identities and are authorized to access specific resources. API key management, securely generating, distributing, and rotating API keys and linking them to specific authorized services. Service mesh security. In microservices architectures, service meshes can enforce identity-based authentication and authorization between services, ensuring only authorized services can communicate. Case study. Google's BeyondCorp. One of the most widely cited real-world implementations of zero trust principles is Google's BeyondCorp. After a sophisticated state-sponsored attack in 2009, Operation Aurora, Google fundamentally reimagined its security. Instead of relying on a traditional network perimeter, they shifted to a model where every user, device, and application is assumed to be hostile until proven otherwise. In BeyondCorp, the central role is played by identity. Employees access internal applications not by connecting to a VPN and being inside a trusted network, but by explicitly authenticating their identity and verifying the health of their device. Google's identity provider, IDP, is central to this. Access is granted directly to specific applications based on a granular policy that considers who the user is, identity, role, what device they are using, device type, patched status, managed by Google, where they are connecting from location, network context, how they are authenticating, MFA. This allows Google employees to work securely from any location, on any device, without a traditional VPN, because access is always contingent on explicit identity and device verification. This model demonstrates how identity truly becomes the new control plane, rendering network location largely irrelevant for access decisions. Conclusion: if zero trust is the strategy, then identity is undoubtedly the centerpiece. It's the foundational layer upon which nearly all other zero trust controls are built. A compromised identity can unravel all other security measures, highlighting the absolute necessity of robust identity management, strong authentication, and continuous verification for every human and non-human entity seeking access to your organization's resources. In the next chapter, we will shift our focus to the equally critical second pillar, devices, and how their security posture plays a vital role in building a comprehensive zero-trust architecture. Chapter 5. Device Security and Endpoint Verification. In the zero-trust model, where identity is the new security perimeter, the device through which that identity is exercised becomes equally crucial. Whether it's a laptop, a mobile phone, an IoT sensor, or a server in a data center, every device attempting to access resources must be treated with the same healthy skepticism. Never trust, always verify. It's no longer enough to know who is requesting access. We must also know what device they are using and whether that device is healthy and compliant with our security policies. Think of it like getting into a secure building. Your ID badge identity gets you through the turnstile, but before you can swipe into a sensitive data room, there might be another check. A scanner verifies your fingerprints, MFA on identity, and then perhaps a separate system checks your body temperature and scans for prohibited items, device posture assessment. Even with a valid ID, if your device, your physical self in this analogy, isn't compliant, access is denied. The device as an access factor. Every endpoint, from a corporate-issued laptop to a personal mobile device accessing cloud apps, or even an unmanaged IoT sensor on the factory floor, is a potential attack vector. A compromised device, even if wielded by a legitimate user, can serve as a conduit for attackers to gain access to sensitive resources, steal data, or launch further attacks. Therefore, assessing the security posture and compliance of every device continuously is a non-negotiable component of zero trust. The goal is to ensure that only authenticated users operating from validated and trusted devices can access company resources. This requires tools and processes that can identify all devices attempting to connect, assess their security health and compliance in real time, enforce policies based on that assessment, remediate non-compliant devices, monitor device behavior for anomalies. Key components of device security and endpoint verification, endpoint management, and posture assessment. This is the foundation for understanding your devices. Unified Endpoint Management, UEM/Mobile Device Management, MDM. These platforms are used to securely configure, deploy, and manage an organization's endpoints, laptops, desktops, smartphones, and tablets. They enforce security baselines, push software updates, manage applications, and prevent unauthorized configurations. Device health and compliance checks. Before granting access to a resource, the policy decision point, PDP, needs to know if the device is trustworthy. This involves checking operating system, OS, patch levels. Is the OS up to date with critical security patches? Antivirus anti-malware status. Is security software installed, running, and updated? Disk encryption. Is the device's storage encrypted? Firewall status. Is the local firewall enabled? Configuration adherence. Does the device meet organizational security policies, e.g., strong passwords, no suspicious software? Jailbreak routing detection. Is the mobile device compromised? If a device fails any of these checks, access can be blocked, or the user can be routed to a remediation portal for self-service or IT intervention. Endpoint protection platforms, EPP, and endpoint detection and response, EDR. These are the frontline defenses on the devices themselves. EPP, Next-Gen Antivirus, focuses on preventing known and unknown malware, ransomware, and fileless attacks. It acts as a preventative shield. EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response, goes beyond prevention by continuously monitoring endpoint activity for suspicious behavior. EDR tools collect detailed telemetry, process activity, network connections, file access, and use analytics to detect anomalies, identify advanced threats, and provide comprehensive visibility for incident response. The rich context gathered by EDR feeds directly into the Zero Trust policy decision point, allowing for dynamic adjustments to access policies based on real-time threat intelligence from the endpoint. For example, if an EDR solution detects a malicious process on a user's laptop, the PDP can immediately revoke the laptop's access to sensitive resources, even if the user identity is legitimate. Network Access Control, NAC. Historically, NAC controlled which devices could connect to the internal network. In a zero-trust model, NAC still plays a role, but its function shifts. Instead of being a broad entry gate, it can act as an initial filter, ensuring only authorized and compliant devices can connect to even the lowest trust network segments. Many zero-trust network access, ZTNA, solutions, which we'll discuss further in Chapter 6, abstract away the need for traditional NAC by providing direct, application-level connectivity rather than broad network access. Device context in policy decisions. The power of zero trust lies in its ability to combine multiple factors to make granular access decisions. Device health is a critical input to this process. For example, a policy might state, User A identity can access the confidential HR database resource from a corporate-managed laptop device that is fully patched and has no detected malware device posture. If User A tries to access the same database from a personal, unmanaged mobile phone, even after successful MFA, access is denied due to non-compliant device posture. The policy decision point continuously evaluates these combined attributes, ensuring that access is granted only when both the identity and the device meet the required trust levels. Securing IoT and operational technology, OT, devices. The proliferation of IoT devices, e.g., smart sensors, cameras, industrial controllers, introduces unique challenges. Many are headless, no traditional OS or user interface, hard to patch, and designed for long life cycles. Traditional endpoint agents are often impossible to deploy. For these devices, zero trust principles are still paramount, often enforced through network isolation. Microsegmenting IoT and OT networks vary aggressively, allowing only specific, predefined communication paths. Behavioral monitoring, detecting anomalous behavior from these devices, e.g., an HVAC sensor suddenly trying to access the general corporate network. Device certificate management, using digital certificates for strong machine identity. Vendor compliance, ensuring IoT vendors build in security from the ground up. Analogy, the hotel key card system. Consider a modern hotel. Your key card, identity, grants you access to your room, But the hotel also wants to ensure the safety of its guests and property, device posture. If your keycard is detected trying to access rooms other than yours repeatedly, or at unusual hours, it might be flagged anomaly detection. The hotel might have systems that detect if a door has been propped open, or if a fire alarm is triggered, device health monitoring. Access to the VIP lounge, sensitive resource, might require not just a valid keycard, but also a check of your guest tier status and confirmation that your room bill is paid up to date, combining identity and device compliance for access. Every device, like every guest, is continuously assessed for its health and compliance. Conclusion: in a world where digital assets are highly distributed and users access them from an endless variety of endpoints, securing the device is no longer an afterthought. It's a critical component of the zero trust equation. By continuously identifying, assessing, managing, and monitoring every device, organizations can significantly reduce their attack surface and prevent compromised endpoints from becoming gateways for attackers. Ultimately, the health of your devices is inextricably linked to the trustworthiness of an access request, solidifying its place as a core pillar in building a robust zero-trust architecture. In the next chapter, we will delve into the critical role of microsegmentation, the powerful technique that allows us to apply least privilege and assume breach principles at the network level. Chapter 6: Microsegmentation, Granular Network Control. If identity defines who or what is allowed to access a resource, and device posture assesses from where that access originates, then microsegmentation controls how and where that access can flow within the network. It is the technical backbone for enforcing the least privilege principle and living the assume breach mindset at the network level. Let's revisit our castle analogy from Chapter 1. A traditional castle-and-moat security model is like having one giant, open hall inside the castle walls. Once an attacker breaches the main gate, they have unrestricted access to everything within that hall: the treasury, the armory, the king's chambers. Microsegmentation, by contrast, transforms that single hall into a maze of smaller, individual rooms, each with its own locked door and access rules. Even if an intruder gets into one room, they are immediately stopped by the next door, unable to move freely. What is microsegmentation? Microsegmentation is the practice of breaking down a large, flat corporate network into many small, isolated segments, sometimes as granular as individual workloads, servers, virtual machines, containers, or applications. It enables organizations to define and enforce highly granular access policies between these segments, isolating resources and severely limiting lateral movement for attackers. Historically, network segmentation relied on large, broad network zones defined by virtual local area networks, VLANs, and traditional firewalls at routing points. You might have a production network, a development network, and a guest Wi-Fi network. While basic, this approach still creates large, relatively flat internal networks where, once a user or attacker is inside a segment, they have broad access across it. If an attacker breaches the production network, for instance, they can often move freely between all servers and applications within that segment. Microsegmentation takes this concept to an exponentially finer level. Instead of a single production network, you might have microsegments for each tier of an application, e.g., web server, application server, database server, individual applications, departments or teams, specific types of data, e.g., sensitive customer data, financial records, even individual containers or serverless functions. Why microsegmentation? The critical benefits. Breach containment. This is the most compelling reason. In an assume breach world, microsegmentation prevents an attacker who has gained a foothold in one part of your network from easily moving to other, more critical areas. It limits the blast radius of a compromise. If a development server is breached, the attacker can't automatically access production databases. Reduced attack surface. By enforcing explicit, allow rules and implicitly denying everything else, microsegmentation significantly reduces the network paths and open ports that an attacker could exploit. Only necessary communication flows are permitted. Improved compliance. Many regulatory frameworks, e.g., PCI DSS, HIPAA, require strict isolation of sensitive data. Microsegmentation provides a robust way to achieve and demonstrate this isolation, often making compliance audits easier. Enhanced operational efficiency. By isolating workloads, it can prevent issues in one area from affecting others, e.g., a misconfigured application in one segment won't bring down an unrelated application in another. Secure hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Microsegmentation can provide a consistent security policy across distributed infrastructure, including on-premises data centers, private clouds, and various public cloud providers, bridging security gaps in hybrid architectures. Approaches to microsegmentation. Implementing microsegmentation can be achieved using a variety of technologies and strategies, often in combination. Host-based, agent-based segmentation. How it works. Software agents are installed directly on endpoints, virtual machines, or servers. These agents act as host-based firewalls, enforcing policies at the operating system level. Pros. Highly granular, down to the individual process level, works regardless of underlying network infrastructure, flexible for cloud and on-premises, can often identify application processes for context-aware rules. Cons. Requires agent deployment and management overhead, potential for software conflicts or performance impact. Hypervisor platform-based segmentation. How it works. Leverages capabilities within virtualization platforms, e.g., VMware NSX, Microsoft Azure Stack HCI, or cloud provider networking, e.g., AWS security groups, Azure Network Security Groups. Policies are enforced at the virtual network or hypervisor layer. Pros. Agentless for the virtual machines themselves, integrated with the virtualization platform, effective in virtualized or public cloud environments. Cons. Limited to the specific virtualization platform or cloud environment, may not extend to physical servers or other cloud providers. Network-based, next-gen firewalls SDN-ZTNA. How it works. Traditional network firewalls can be strategically deployed as internal segment gateways. More advanced approaches use software-defined networking, SDN, solutions to programmatically control network flows, or zero-trust network access, ZTNA, solutions which create application-specific micro-segmented access paths. Pros. Can enforce policies at the network layer, potentially agentless for some components. Cons. Can be complex to manage at scale for very granular segmentation, may require significant network rearchitecture. ZTNA excels at per-application access, but typically provides less intrasegment control than host-based. Planning for microsegmentation. It's not just a technical exercise. Implementing microsegmentation is a significant undertaking that requires thorough planning. Application mapping and dependency analysis. Before you can segment, you must understand your applications. What are their components? Which servers or services do they communicate with? What ports and protocols do they use? Tools that discover and map application dependencies are crucial to avoid breaking critical business processes. This phase is often the most time-consuming but vital. Starting small, crawl, walk, run. Don't try to microsegment your entire network on day one. Identify a critical application, a specific department, or a sensitive data set, and start there. Learn from the pilot project, refine your policies, and then expand. Policy definition. Define explicit allow lists. For each segment, determine precisely what communication is permitted. Remember the zero-trust mantra. Deny by default, explicitly allow. Automation. Manual policy creation and management for hundreds or thousands of microsegments is unsustainable. Leverage automation tools, policy orchestration engines, and configuration management systems. Monitoring and visibility. Ensure you have tools to visualize traffic flows across your microsegments and monitor for policy violations or unexpected communication attempts. This helps fine-tune policies and detect potential threats. The hotel analogy, revisited. Going back to our hotel analogy, traditional segmentation is like dividing the hotel into guest floors and a staff area. Once you're on a guest floor, you can walk into any guest room if unlocked or common area. Microsegmentation is like having a unique electronic lock on every single door within the hotel, not just guest rooms, but also the supply closets, the manager's office, the server room, even the kitchen pantry. Each keycard is programmed for only the specific doors it needs to open, least privilege. If you're housekeeping, your card might open all guest rooms you're assigned, but not the manager's office. If you're a manager, your card opens certain staff areas, but not the guest rooms you're not explicitly assigned to. Even if someone obtains a keycard, its access is narrowly defined to prevent free movement. This greatly limits the damage if a card is lost or stolen. Conclusion: microsegmentation is an absolute game changer in a zero-trust architecture. It transforms a broad network defense into a series of highly granular, insulated security perimeters around individual resources. By significantly limiting lateral movement and reducing the attack surface, it embodies the assume breach philosophy, ensuring that even if an attacker gains entry, their ability to navigate and cause widespread damage is severely curtailed. It is a complex architectural shift, but one that provides unparalleled control and resilience in protecting your most critical assets. As we move on from network controls, the next chapter will explore the security of the very applications that live within these segments, an increasingly vital focus in the cloud-native era. Chapter 7: Application and Workload Security. Up to this point, we've explored the foundational pillars of Zero Trust: verifying who you are identity, assessing the health of your devices, and controlling your movement within the network, microsegmentation. But ultimately, users and devices interact with applications to access data. Applications are the digital workspaces where business logic is executed, information is processed, and value is created. Therefore, securing applications and the workloads that host them is not just important, it's paramount to a complete zero-trust architecture. In a traditional security model, applications residing inside the secure network perimeter were often implicitly trusted. Security efforts focused on perimeter firewalls rather than in-depth application controls. In the cloud-native, distributed world of zero trust, this assumption is dangerous. Applications, whether they are SaaS products, web applications, mobile apps, or internal line-of-business software, are now often exposed to the internet, communicate with various external services, and handle sensitive data directly. Each application becomes a resource requiring explicit authentication and authorization. The application as a resource in zero trust. From a zero trust perspective, an application itself, or even individual functions within an application, is a target for access control. It's not enough that a user can reach the server hosting the application. They must be explicitly authorized to use the application and its specific features. This means moving beyond network-level access rules to application-level security controls. Key components of application and workload security. Securing access to applications. Building on identity, Chapter 4. This involves integrating applications directly with your central identity provider, IDP. Application-specific authentication authorization. Users authenticate via SSO to the IDP, and the IDP then provides a token, e.g., SAML, OAuth OIDC, that the application explicitly trusts. The application then enforces its own granular authorization rules based on the user's role and attributes within that specific application. For example, a user might be authenticated to a human resources portal, but within that portal, their specific role, e.g., HR manager versus employee, dictates whether they can view salary information or only their own pay stubs. Contextual access. Policies tied to applications should consider the context of the access request. Is the user accessing a critical financial application from an unknown public Wi-Fi network? The policy engine might flag this as high risk and deny access or require multi-factor reauthentication, even if the user identity is valid. API security. APIs, application programming interfaces, are the digital glue that connects applications, services, and data. In modern architectures, most applications rely heavily on APIs for internal communication, microservices, external integrations, partners, and mobile app backends. APIs represent a significant attack surface in zero-trust environments because they are direct entry points into backend logic and data. Strong API authentication and authorization. Every API call must be authenticated and authorized. This often involves API keys, OAuth tokens, or JWTs, JSON web tokens, ensuring that only authorized applications or users can invoke specific API functions. API gateways act as policy enforcement points, PEPs for APIs, providing a centralized point for authentication, authorization, rate limiting, and traffic management before requests reach the backend services. Behavioral monitoring, detecting anomalous API call patterns, e.g., an unusual volume of requests from unexpected locations, or attempts to access data outside a normal pattern that might indicate an attack. OWASP API Security Top 10, adhering to best practices for secure API design from organizations like OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project, is crucial. Workload security in cloud environments. The widespread adoption of cloud-native technologies like containers and serverless functions introduces new challenges and opportunities for zero trust. These workloads are ephemeral, numerous, and often communicate dynamically. Container security, Docker, Kubernetes. Each container instance is a mini workload that needs to be secured. This involves image scanning, ensuring container images are free of vulnerabilities. Runtime security, monitoring container behavior for anomalies. Network policies, defining granular communication rules between containers within a Kubernetes cluster using network policies, akin to microsegmentation, but at the container level. Short-lived credentials, using dynamic, short-lived credentials for containers to access other services, reducing the risk of compromised static credentials. Serverless functions, FAS. While the underlying infrastructure is managed by the cloud provider, the functions themselves must be secured. This includes least privilege for the function's execution role, input validation, and secure handling of environment variables. Cloud Workload Protection Platforms, CWPP. Tools specifically designed to protect workloads across hybrid and multi-cloud environments, ensuring consistent security posture, vulnerability management, and runtime protection for VMS, containers, and serverless functions. Application segmentation complements network microsegmentation. While network microsegmentation, Chapter 6, isolates entire workloads, application segmentation goes a step further by isolating components within an application. For example, segregating a web server tier from an application server tier and a database tier, even on the same host or cluster, and applying specific firewall rules between them. This prevents a compromise in the web tier from immediately spreading to the more critical data tier. DevSecOps and Application Security Posture Management, ASPM. To truly secure applications, security must be embedded throughout the entire software development lifecycle, SDLC. This shift-left approach is fundamental to zero trust. DevSecOps, integrating security practices, e.g., static code analysis, dynamic application security testing, software composition analysis, into development, testing, and deployment pipelines. This detects vulnerabilities early, making them cheaper and easier to fix. Application Security Posture Management, ASPM, provides continuous visibility into the security posture of all applications, identifying misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, and potential risks across the application portfolio. Analogy: the fine dining restaurant with multiple kitchens. Imagine a high-end restaurant where various dishes are prepared in highly specialized, separate kitchens. Application security. You might be a customer authorized to order from the appetizer kitchen and the main course kitchen, application-level authentication authorization. API security. The waiter calling orders to the kitchen is like an API call. They must use the correct order format, API schema, know the right sequence, API flow, and be recognized by the kitchen staff, authenticated. Each kitchen function, e.g., grill fish, prepare sauce, is a specific API endpoint. Workload security. The salad bar might be a highly automated, self-serve microservice, isolated from the steak grill but still requiring specific prep and sanitation rules. Application segmentation. Even within the main course kitchen, the grill station, one component, is isolated from the pastry station, another component, preventing a fire at the grill from affecting the delicate pastries. DevSecOps. The chefs and kitchen designers, developers, work with food safety experts, security engineers, from the very beginning to design a safe, hygienic kitchen, not just adding it on at the end. Conclusion. Applications are the interactive front doors to your data and business logic. In a zero-trust world, securing them is non-negotiable. By implementing robust application-level authentication and authorization, securing APIs, ensuring the security of cloud-native workloads, and integrating security throughout the development lifecycle, organizations can ensure that their applications become strong enforcers of zero-trust principles, rather than their weakest link. As we move closer to the data, our next chapter will focus on protecting the ultimate target of all these efforts, the data itself, regardless of where it lives. Chapter 8. Data Protection in a Zero-Trust World. We've journeyed through the core principles and architectural pillars of zero trust, starting with identity, moving to devices, then network microsegmentation, and finally, application security. Each step has brought us closer to the ultimate target of all security efforts: data. In the zero-trust philosophy, data is the crown jewel, the asset that must be protected above all else. This might seem obvious, but traditional security models often focused on securing the network or the application around the data, assuming that if the container was safe, the contents were too. In a zero-trust world, the security focus shifts directly to the data itself. This means protecting data regardless of its location, on-premises, in the cloud, on a mobile device, and regardless of who or what attempts to access it, constantly verifying that the access is explicitly authorized and necessary. Think of it this way: you have a top-secret document. In the traditional castle-and-moat model, you'd put it in a highly secure vault within your castle. Once you're inside that vault, you can do anything with the document. But what if a trusted insider is compromised and manages to get into the vault? What if someone makes a photocopy of the document and takes it outside the castle walls? In a zero-trust approach, the document itself is intrinsically protected. It might be written in a code only certain people can decipher, encryption. It changes color and becomes unreadable if taken outside a specific geofenced area, data loss prevention. Every time someone touches it, even if they're authorized, there's a record, and if they try to perform an unauthorized action, the document might automatically shred itself. Granular access controls, activity monitoring. The document carries its security with it. Data as the primary asset to protect. The fundamental shift in data protection for zero trust is that every access to, movement of, or operation on data must be subject to explicit verification. This involves layering controls directly onto the data or its immediate context, ensuring that its sensitivity and security requirements are always considered. Key components of data protection in a zero-trust world. Data classification and labeling. You can't protect what you don't understand. The first step is to categorize your data based on its sensitivity, regulatory requirements, and business criticality. Common classifications include public, freely available, e.g., marketing materials; internal, for internal use only, e.g., employee handbooks; confidential, sensitive business information, e.g., financial reports, M&A plans; restricted, highly confidential, personal identifiable information, PII, protected health information, FI, intellectual property, IP, source code. Once classified, data should be systematically labeled metadata, so that automated systems, policy decision points, DLP tools, can understand its sensitivity and apply appropriate policies. This feeds directly into the verify explicitly principle, allowing policies to dynamically adapt based on the data's sensitivity. Encryption everywhere. Encryption is the backbone of data confidentiality and integrity in a zero-trust environment. It protects data regardless of where it is stored or transmitted. Data at rest. Encrypting data when it's stored on servers, databases, cloud storage buckets, or endpoint devices. This protects data even if the storage medium is physically stolen. Data in transit. Encrypting data as it moves across networks, whether internal, e.g., using TLS-SSL for all internal communication, not just external or external. This prevents eavesdropping and tampering. Data in use emerging. While challenging, advanced concepts like homomorphic encryption, which allows computation on encrypted data without decrypting it, and confidential computing, processing data in hardware-secured environments, are emerging to protect data even while it's being actively processed in memory. These technologies represent the ultimate realization of data-centric security. Data loss prevention, DLP. DLP solutions monitor, detect, and block the unauthorized exfiltration or transfer of sensitive data. They inspect data content, e.g., looking for credit card numbers, social security numbers, classifications labels, and context, e.g., destination, user, to prevent data from leaving the organization's control. DLP tools can be deployed at endpoint, preventing users from copying sensitive files to USB drives or personal cloud storage. Network, blocking sensitive data from being uploaded to unapproved websites or sent via email outside the organization. Cloud, monitoring data stored in SaaS applications or cloud storage for policy violations. In a zero-trust approach, DLP policies are tightly integrated with identity, device, and application context, dynamically adjusting based on risk. Granular access controls on data. Beyond just granting access to an application or system, Zero Trust demands that access controls are applied directly at the data layer, down to individual files, records, or fields. Attribute-based access control, ABAC. This is highly effective. Instead of just role-based access, ABAC evaluates a combination of attributes: user's role, security clearance, project, data's classification, creation date, environmental factors like time of day, location, to make real-time, fine-grained decisions about data access. For example, employees in the HR department can view confidential salary data if they are accessing it from a corporate-managed, compliant device during business hours. Data masking/tokenization. For extremely sensitive data, only a subset may be revealed, or it may be replaced with a non-sensitive equivalent, a token, whenever it's not being processed by highly authorized systems. Data governance and data lifecycle management. Data protection is an ongoing process. Data governance. Establishing clear policies, roles, and responsibilities for managing data throughout its lifecycle: creation, storage, use, sharing, archival, and ultimate destruction. Data lifecycle management. Ensuring data is retained only for as long as necessary, securely archived when no longer actively used, and securely disposed of when no longer needed. This minimizes the volume of sensitive data that needs protection. The banking vault analogy, refined. Let's refine our bank vault analogy. Instead of thinking of one secure vault for all your valuables, imagine a bank where every single item, a $1,000 bill, a rare coin, a personal letter, is itself sealed in its own transparent, tamper-evident, intelligent container. Data classification and labeling. Each container is labeled with its value and security requirements. Encryption everywhere. The container can only be opened by a specific authorized key held by certain individuals. DLP. If a container is taken outside the bank, an alarm rings instantly, and the container automatically locks down tighter. Granular access controls. Not everyone with a key can access every container. Only someone with specific clearance and a specific mission can open the container with the rare coin, and only for a limited viewing time under strict surveillance. Auditing. Every time a container is handled, it logs who touched it, when, and what they looked at. This refined analogy illustrates how Zero Trust elevates data to its rightful place as the primary asset, applying security directly upon it, rather than just around the network or application that hosts it. Conclusion. In a world where data is constantly in motion and distributed across numerous environments, relying on perimeter defenses to protect it is a losing battle. Zero Trust shifts the focus squarely onto the data itself, ensuring that only explicitly verified users and devices have access to information they are authorized to see for valid purposes. By implementing robust data classification, pervasive encryption, intelligent data loss prevention, and granular access controls, organizations can create a resilient data protection strategy that survives network boundaries and ensures data integrity and confidentiality in the face of persistent threats. With the foundations of identity, devices, network, applications, and data now understood, we can move into the practical steps of how to plan and implement this transformative security approach. Chapter 9. Building your Zero Trust Roadmap, Strategy to Implementation. By now, you understand the necessity of zero trust, its core principles, and the architectural pillars that support it. The theory is compelling, but the practical reality of transitioning from a traditional security model to a zero trust architecture can seem daunting. It's not a single product you plug in, nor a project with a defined end date. Zero trust is a continuous journey, a strategic, long-term transformation that requires careful planning, phased implementation, and organizational buy-in. This chapter provides a practical roadmap outlining the phases and key considerations for building your zero trust strategy and putting it into action. Phase 1. Assess and plan, understanding your starting point. Before you can begin your journey, you need to know where you are. This initial phase is critical for gaining clarity, securing resources, and building consensus across the organization. Gain executive buy-in. Zero trust is not just an IT project. It's a fundamental business transformation that affects how all employees access resources. Secure sponsorship from senior leadership, CIO, CISO, CEO early on. Clearly articulate the business benefits: reduced risk, improved compliance, enablement of remote work cloud initiatives, and enhanced operational efficiency. Without executive support, your initiative will likely falter. Form a cross-functional zero trust team. This shouldn't be solely an IT security effort. Involve stakeholders from identity and access management, network engineering, application development, cloud operations, legal compliance, human resources, and business units. Diverse perspectives are crucial for comprehensive planning and successful adoption. Conduct a current state assessment. Identify your crown jewels. What are your most critical data, applications, and assets? Focus your initial efforts on protecting these. Data classification, as discussed in Chapter 8, is a foundational activity here. Map all identities. Document all human users, service accounts, and API keys. Understand your current identity provider capabilities. Inventory devices. Catalog all endpoints: laptops, desktops, mobile devices, servers, IoT, and OT devices. Assess their current management and security posture. Understand network flows. Map out application dependencies and communication pathways. Which application talks to which database, which services call which APIs. This is crucial for microsegmentation planning. Evaluate existing tools and capabilities. What security tools, MFA, EDR, SIEM, PAM, DLP, do you already have? Can they be integrated or adapted for zero trust? Assess current policies and gaps. Document your existing access policies and identify where implicit trust is currently granted. Define scope and goals. Start small and iterate. Don't try to implement zero trust everywhere all at once. Identify pilot areas. Choose a specific application, a small group of users, a single department, or a particular sensitive data set as your initial zero trust pilot. Success here builds momentum and provides valuable lessons. Set clear, measurable objectives. What does success look like for your initial phase? E.g., implement MFA for all administrator accounts. Enforce least privilege access for Department X to Application Y. Reduce lateral movement within the HR network by 80%. Determine key metrics. How will you measure progress? E.g., number of explicit access policies deployed, reduction in detected lateral movement attempts, increased visibility into user activity, faster incident response times. Budgeting and resource allocation. Build a realistic budget that accounts for technology investments, training, and potentially new staff. Zero trust is an investment, not a cost. Phase 2. Design and architect, translating strategy into blueprints. With a clear understanding of your current state and defined goals, you can begin to design your zero trust architecture. Prioritize identity first. As Chapter 4 highlighted, identity is paramount. Focus on centralizing identity management, implementing robust MFA for all users, especially privileged accounts, and establishing strong identity governance processes. This is often the logical starting point for many organizations. Standardize device health and posture. Leverage UEM, MDM, and EDR solutions to gain continuous visibility into all devices accessing corporate resources. Define clear compliance baselines and integrate device posture data into your policy decision point, PDP. Develop a microsegmentation strategy. Based on your application dependency mapping, determine your approach, host-based, network, or cloud-native, and start planning for granular enforcement. Remember the crawl, walk, run approach here. Begin with isolating your most critical assets. Integrate applications. Ensure your applications can integrate with your central IDP for authentication and authorization. Begin implementing application-level access controls and API security where needed. Focus on data classification and protection. If not done in Phase 1, make this a priority. You can't secure what you don't know you have. Roll out encryption, DLP, and granular access controls for your most sensitive data sets first. Define comprehensive policies. Work with your cross-functional team to define explicit access policies based on the who, what, where, when, why of every access request. Policies should be dynamic, leveraging context from all pillars. Select technologies and vendors. Based on your strategy, assess vendors and solutions. Look for platforms that offer integration capabilities and align with your existing infrastructure. Avoid vendor lock-in. Consider a phased approach to technology adoption as well. Phase 3. Phased implementation and iteration, the continuous journey. Zero Trust is a continuous process of deployment, monitoring, refinement, and expansion. Crawl, walk, run approach. Crawl, deploy a small, manageable pilot. This might involve implementing MFA for all remote users or microsegmenting a single critical application. Focus on learning and overcoming initial challenges. Walk, expand your implementation based on lessons learned. Roll out more advanced techniques like privileged access management, ZTNA for additional applications, or extending microsegmentation to more workloads. Begin integrating more data sources into your PDP, e.g., UEBA, threat intelligence. Run, achieve full enterprise-wide zero trust maturity. This involves continuous optimization of policies, widespread automation, proactive threat hunting, and deep integration of security across all aspects of your IT infrastructure. Monitor and tune policies continuously. Zero Trust is a live system. Policies will need continuous monitoring, analysis, using SIEM UEBA, and tuning to adapt to changes in your environment, new threats, and evolving business needs. Unexpected access requests or policy violations indicate areas for refinement. Automate wherever possible. As you scale, manual processes become bottlenecks and error-prone. Automate policy enforcement, incident response (SOAR), and security checks in your DevSecOps pipelines. Prioritize user experience, UX. While security is paramount, a poor user experience can lead to user frustration and shadow IT workarounds. Design zero trust implementations that are as seamless and transparent as possible for legitimate users. SSO and adaptive MFA can actually improve user experience by reducing login prompts in low-risk scenarios. Communicate and train. Regular communication with employees about the benefits and changes of zero trust is critical for adoption. Provide clear, ongoing training. Common challenges and how to overcome them. Organizational resistance. Change is hard. Overcome this with strong executive sponsorship, clear communication, involving key stakeholders early, and demonstrating tangible wins in pilot projects. Legacy systems. Older applications and infrastructure may not natively support modern zero trust tenets. Strategies include wrapping them with modern security proxies, like ZTNA, aggressive microsegmentation around them, or planning for their eventual modernization. Lack of visibility. If you don't know what you have or how it communicates, you can't protect it. Invest in discovery and mapping tools and comprehensive logging. Policy complexity sprawl. Without automation and careful design, policy management can become unwieldy. Centralized policy engines and consistent naming conventions are key. Start with default deny and add granular allow rules based on actual needs. Vendor lock-in. Aim for solutions that are open and interoperable, allowing you to integrate components from different vendors as needed. Budget constraints. Emphasize the long-term cost benefits of zero trust, reduced breach costs, improved efficiency, compliance adherence, versus its upfront investment. Adopt a phased approach fitting to budget cycles. Measuring success. Success isn't just about implementing technology, it's about improving your security posture and business outcomes. Look for reduced lateral movement within networks, faster detection and containment of threats, improved audit readiness and compliance, increased visibility into user and device activity, fewer successful phishing or credential stuffing attacks, enhanced resilience against ransomware and other sophisticated attacks. Conclusion: implementing zero trust is a marathon, not a sprint. It demands organizational commitment, a clear strategy, and a phased, iterative approach. By logically assessing your environment, designing a comprehensive architecture across all pillars, and focusing on continuous improvement, any organization can embark on this transformative journey. While initially challenging, the long-term benefits of a resilient, adaptable, and inherently more secure digital environment far outweigh the effort. Your Zero Trust Roadmap is your guide to building that secure future, leaving the vulnerabilities of the castle-and-moat firmly in the past. In our final chapter, we will look to the horizon, exploring how zero trust continues to evolve and what the future of trust in cybersecurity might hold. Chapter 10: The Future of Trust. Evolving Zero Trust and Beyond. We've journeyed from the obsolete castle-and-moat model to a comprehensive understanding of zero trust architecture, exploring its core principles and pillars. We've even mapped out a practical roadmap for implementation. But cybersecurity is a never-ending race against evolving threats. Zero trust, while a powerful and necessary paradigm shift, is not a static destination. It's a living, continuously evolving framework designed to adapt to the ever-changing digital landscape. As technology progresses, so too must our security strategies. This final chapter looks to the horizon, exploring the ongoing evolution of zero trust and what its future, and the future of trust itself, might hold. The continuous evolution of zero trust. The zero trust concept, initially articulated by Forrester's John Kindervag in 2010, has matured significantly. Government bodies like NIST and organizations globally have embraced and refined its principles. This ongoing evolution is driven by several factors: new technologies, the continuous emergence of new tech, from quantum computing to advanced AI, ubiquitous IoT, and sophisticated cloud-native architectures, demands constant adaptation of security models. Evolving threat landscape. Cybercriminals, nation-state actors, and insiders continuously develop new tactics, techniques, and procedures (TTPs), forcing security to remain agile and proactive. Increased digitalization. As more of our lives and businesses migrate online, the attack surface expands, requiring more pervasive and intelligent security controls. Key trends shaping the future of zero trust. AI and machine learning, ML in zero trust. AI and ML are already integral to many security tools, but their role in zero trust will deepen significantly. Enhanced anomaly detection. UEBA, User and Entity Behavior Analytics, powered by AI, can detect subtle deviations from normal behavior, e.g., a user logging in at an unusual time, transferring an atypical volume of data, or accessing resources outside their usual scope, far more accurately and rapidly than human analysts. These anomalies can automatically trigger stronger authentication, session termination, or alerts to the PDP for dynamic policy adjustments. Automated policy optimization. AI can analyze vast amounts of telemetry data to identify optimal policy configurations, automatically refining access rules, microsegments, and user permissions to further reduce risk with minimal manual intervention. Predictive security. ML models can analyze historical data to predict potential attack vectors, proactive vulnerabilities, and likely targets, enabling organizations to implement preventive measures before an attack occurs. Homomorphic encryption and confidential computing. These cutting-edge cryptographic techniques represent the true realization of data-centric security. Homomorphic encryption, HE, allows computations to be performed directly on encrypted data without decrypting it first. This is revolutionary for privacy, enabling sensitive data to be processed in untrusted environments, like public clouds, without exposing the raw information. While computationally intensive today, advancements will make HE more practical, allowing for richer data analytics and collaboration while maintaining absolute confidentiality. Confidential computing ensures data remains encrypted even when in use, i.e., in memory, during computation. This typically involves specialized hardware enclaves, like Intel SGX or AMD Save, that protect the integrity and confidentiality of data and code even from a compromised operating system or hypervisor. These technologies will significantly bolster the data-centric pillar of zero trust, making data genuinely secure even in the most hostile environments. Quantum computing and its impact. While a future concern, the potential rise of large-scale quantum computers poses an existential threat to current public key cryptography, e.g., RSA, ECC, which underpins much of our internet security and zero-trust architectures. Quantum computers could potentially break these encryption standards, rendering many current security measures obsolete. Post-quantum cryptography, PQC. Research and development in PQC are actively seeking new cryptographic algorithms that can withstand quantum attacks. The evolution of zero trust will involve the gradual transition to these quantum-safe algorithms across all layers, from identity authentication to data encryption. This will be a massive undertaking requiring forward-thinking architecture. Zero trust for IoT and operational technology, OT. The convergence of IT and OT, alongside the explosion of interconnected IoT devices in homes, industries, and critical infrastructure, creates new challenges. Many IoT/OT devices have limited processing power, no direct user interface, and long life cycles that make patching difficult. Zero trust principles are crucial here, focusing on stringent device identity, extreme microsegmentation, to isolate and control traffic to and from these devices, and continuous behavioral monitoring to detect anomalies, e.g., a smart sensor trying to initiate outgoing connections. The goal is to ensure that everything on the network is authenticated, authorized, and continuously monitored, even if it's a centuries-old piece of industrial equipment with a new sensor attached. Zero trust for data mesh and distributed data architectures. As organizations adopt distributed data architectures like data meshes, where data is decentralized and owned by domain-specific teams, zero trust becomes even more critical. It ensures that access to data products within the mesh is governed by granular, identity-aware policies, allowing for secure collaboration and data sharing across domain boundaries without creating new vulnerabilities. Each data product essentially becomes a microsegment of data requiring explicit verification. The human element and continuous adaptation. Despite all the technological advancements, the human element remains central. Zero trust is fundamentally about managing trust, and human behavior often dictates risk. Security awareness. Continuous education and awareness programs are vital to ensure employees understand their role in maintaining identity hygiene and recognizing social engineering tactics. User experience. As zero trust becomes more pervasive, balancing robust security with a frictionless user experience will be key for successful adoption. Adaptive access policies and intelligent automation will make security invisible where possible, only challenging users when genuine risk is detected. Continuous improvement. Zero trust is a journey, not a destination. Organizations must foster a culture of continuous assessment, learning, and adaptation, ensuring their security posture evolves in lockstep with the threats and technologies. The concept of zero trust everything. Ultimately, the goal is to extend the zero trust philosophy beyond just digital assets. We're moving towards a world where trust, or the lack thereof, is explicitly managed across all dimensions of an enterprise. Physical security. Who can access which physical spaces and when? Supply chain. verifying the integrity of every component, every supplier, and every process in the supply chain, from raw materials to final product. Business processes, ensuring every step in a business process is authorized and validated. This vision of zero trust everything is perhaps the ultimate manifestation of never trust, always verify, a seamless, intelligent security fabric that protects all aspects of an organization from a world of pervasive threats. Conclusion: zero trust is far more than a passing cybersecurity fad. It is a foundational change in how we perceive and manage access in a distributed, interconnected world. It replaces implicit trust with explicit, continuous verification, making organizations inherently more resilient to sophisticated attacks. While the journey is complex and ongoing, embracing zero trust principles today positions organizations to adapt to tomorrow's threats. As the lines between physical and digital blur, as AI becomes an active participant in our systems, and as data proliferates beyond our wildest imagination, the ability to grant and revoke trust dynamically and intelligently will be the hallmark of secure, robust, and future-proof enterprises. The castle-and-moat is history. The era of zero trust has dawned, and its continuous evolution promises a more secure, if dynamically challenging, digital future for us all.